And what's going on, everybody? It is 11:09 p.m. Thursday, July 8th, 2021. I'm a little late getting started on this, but I wanted to still get it out tonight and hopefully on before I crash. Anyway, this is going to be a Ripple XRP type update type video just on some of the narrative that's building around in the space, things that everybody's talking about, what's going on behind the scenes, stuff like that. From Ripple here, central bank digital currencies will be one of the defining transformations in the history of money. Like this post if you agree, then download our free report to learn more. I do have a link to that where you can download it. I'm going to go ahead and get a copy and take a look at it tomorrow and probably throw it up on another video. Shishbrella from Ripple says, after nearly a decade in crypto, I'm still amazed at how quickly this industry evolves. It's growing block after block, pun intended, like Legos that can be put together to form infinite use cases. At Ripple, we're taking that philosophy to heart. For years, Ripple focused on building and deploying RippleNet to solve the many frictions in cross-border payments. It's no surprise that so many fintechs and crypto companies are focused on cross-border payments. FX margins were the highest here. Many fintechs improve the front end and optimize local liquidity pools, but with crypto, you can finally update that back end. You can source FX 24/7 from cryptos, lots of global liquidity now, and settle funds all in one step, while traditionally these would be two distinct steps. The world is becoming more tokenized. That much is abundantly clear. All signs point to DeFi becoming as ubiquitous as web or mobile have become in enabling the flow of information, which requires healthy liquidity for all kinds of assets. To build this future, we're evolving RippleNet to provide more than just crypto-enabled instant cross-border payments. It's about being the bridge between a growing world of tokenized services and traditional enterprises that want to enter the space. More to come. It's exciting stuff. I will put a link in there for this. Real XRP boy says, when it comes to the big picture, Ripple and XRP, the SEC, is just a fly on the wall, playing a minuscule role in the new landscape. Things will be ramping up soon, and I can't wait. Let's check out this video.
Even in America, Walgreens in the States accept Alipay. This sort of new digital payments ecosystem sort of completely disregards nation states and national borders.
It's not just Alipay. Facebook is developing its own digital currency, and Amazon is also working on financial services. Some worry this could concentrate too much power in the hands of a few tech companies. But for central bankers, the problem is even more acute. They fear these developments could cut the cord between the central bank and the economy altogether.
These super apps in China, they started off just doing payments, and now they do provision of loans, they do provision of investment services, they provide insurance, they do all the things that banks do. Central bankers feel as though their sort of ability to oversee and conduct monetary policy and oversight is, fundamentally slipping away.
So some central banks have taken radical action by creating their own digital currencies to rival the tech giants' payment systems, in the hope this will secure their grasp on the economy.
Central bankers' level of discomfort is potentially prompting them to sort of act to change this, economic system, the monetary system that has underpinned modern economies for, 250 years.
It's good stuff. Great little clip. Going more into this is going to kind of tie into what we're going into here in a minute. This is a Mt. Gox interview where they are talking about Jed McCaleb. Now remember, McCaleb was the founder of Mt. Gox, who got out of there and sold everything right before the Fed came in there and started locking people up. He was one of the original founders of Ripple, got out of there, has never been mentioned in the lawsuit, and he is the founder of Stellar, who I'm a huge fan of, just on the record. But listen to what they were saying about him, and then we'll expand on it.
Mt. Gox was totally different than any exchange today. And by way of example, for the longest time, Jed McCaleb banked all the Mt. Gox customers out of his own personal bank account at JP Morgan Chase in New York. Just think about that. Think about any exchange even trying to get a bank account today. It's really hard. And this guy was banking everyone out of a personal bank account.
So he's saying that Jed McCaleb was banking all of Mt. Gox's stuff in the beginning through his JP Morgan personal bank account. And I just had a little thing up here about Jed McCaleb where it talks about some of the stuff he was involved with. I'll link that. And here, this was highlighted, this little bit here I got on this trail because of Digital Asset Investor. He said that Mt. Gox announced that approximately 850,000 Bitcoins belonging to customers in the company were missing and likely stolen, amount valued at more than $450 million at the time. So if that's what came up missing, and just imagine how much was probably on there, and this guy was just running it through a random bank or his personal bank account at JP Morgan. It's interesting. Then there's this clip, which this is Charles Hoskinson. He was one of the original founders of Ethereum and one of the co-founders, or maybe even the main founder, I'm not sure actually, of Cardano, but I know he is Cardano.
The Ethereum team is really one of the most remarkable that I've ever had the privilege of working on. It's a wonderful mix of both old and new. There are some senior software developers, people who work for Goldman Sachs off Wall Street. The Ethereum team is...
You see there, they're talking about even in the beginning, Goldman Sachs being there, being involved. And that's why I went from the JP Morgan thing with Jed McCaleb running all that money through there with the Bitcoin that mysteriously came up missing. Who knows what happened. It did say that it was later reported that they were all taken straight out of the Mt. Gox hot crypto wallet over time, starting in 2011, going all the way to... I'm not sure if it even says 2014, so for like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, so you got JP Morgan activity there. You got Goldman coming into play here. Now, listen to this. As you begin to watch them crack down on crypto exchanges and hand this new asset class off to JP Morgan and Goldman and the White Shoe Boys, remember, this was always the plan. It's time for the short the banks children to grow up. Like it or not, there will always be rulers. And he retweeted something from May, and he says, "My igloo in Georgia is still for sale if you believe this Ripple lawsuit is about anything other than power plays. No matter what anyone says, Gensler's the top dog. He can make this go away yesterday. Nothing happens without Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan." And listen to what these guys are going to say. This is Tim Draper. And if you want to know who Tim Draper is, he's a venture capital investor who has ties to, Hotmail, Skype, Tesla, SpaceX, SolarCity, Ring, Twitter, DocuSign, Coinbase, Robinhood, Ancestry.com, Twitch, Cruise Automotion. You get the point. Let's listen to what they say here in this video, though. This is him talking to Gary Gensler.
You mentioned Jamie Dimon, so let's bring it back to Jamie and JP Morgan. What do you think is going to be the thing that they will have to change the most or lose market share and somebody else is going to do better, faster, serve their clients better than JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs can?
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
feel the panic in their voices. But here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, "Oh, it's nothing," and they did that. I mean, that's with every new industry, every new technology comes along. The powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden, it's too big to get in there. They're going, "Oh my God, I got to face this thing." And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, "We're not letting this happen." And then it keeps going. And then they say, "Okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government."
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
No, that's at the end.
They will adopt this technology.
No, this is the last thing they do. No,
yeah, it's like
it's after. Right. It's after the press planting. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And then they go, "Oh God, this thing's happening."
Sound familiar to any of you guys? He also pointed out, and that's Digital Asset Investor. So we're talking about JP Morgan, we're talking about Goldman Sachs, you're going to recognize some of these other names. And if you're not, you'll start paying attention to them when you do hear them. So here we have JP Morgan, one of the biggest players in the game. Here are the top 10 owners of JP Morgan. We have Vanguard Group, State Street, BlackRock. It's interesting, right? Then you go over here to the top 10 owners of Goldman, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock. That's interesting. You go over to BlackRock, Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. Let's go over to who owns State Street. Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, JP Morgan. You'll see some other people on here too. I mean, I'm just saying that, there's a main group here that you're seeing though. Who owns the American Vanguard Corp? BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Who owns BNY Mellon? They're going to come up in a minute. Berkshire Hathaway, Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Then here's SBI, who's the major share? We'll get into who they are in just a second, but who are the major shareholders there? We have BNY Mellon twice, JP Morgan, State Street. Interesting stuff there. By the way, SBI is the largest and earliest funder, I believe, in both Ripple and R3. Something to pay attention to. It's interesting. The greatest wealth transfer was never going to happen without the traditional financial big boys being the ones allowed to connect to new wealth. Only a handful of chosen crypto exchanges will be allowed to play in this new world. It looks like the big boys are almost ready. And here is the text of Senator Warren's letter to SEC Chair Gary Gensler. And she is asking for a response by July 28th. They are uniquely close, and it is likely that this letter was shared before it was publicly sent. Because the world is a stage. I'll include this in the description, but it starts off, I write to request information regarding the Security and Exchange Commission's authority to properly regulate cryptocurrency exchanges and to determine if Congress needs to act to ensure that the SEC has the proper authority to close existing gaps in regulation that leave investors and consumers vulnerable to danger in this highly opaque and volatile market. They're only doing this to help us, I assure you. And here's some of the questions. Do you believe that cryptocurrency exchanges are currently operating in a fair, orderly, and efficient manner? If not, what problems has the SEC identified that are associated with the use of these exchanges? 2, how do the characteristics of assets traded on cryptocurrency exchanges differ from those of assets traded on traditional security exchanges? 3, describe the extent of the SEC's existing authority to regulate existing cryptocurrency exchanges. 4, foreign regulators have moved to restrict cryptocurrency exchanges in their jurisdictions in recent years while calling for international coordination to address regulatory gaps. You guys see in a recent address, where's it at? They argue that DeFi derivative instruments are likely illegal under the Commodity Exchange Act. So if you see exchanges, a little bit of DeFi, that should give you a little bit of a narrative of where this thing is going, guys. I've tried to find something good in this, and I have failed. The SEC must use its full authority to address these risks, and Congress must also step up to close these regulatory gaps. Elizabeth Warren gives SEC July 28th deadline to figure it out. Just added, latest blog post by none other than the one and only John Deaton. If Judge Netburn and millions of XRP holders, along with companies like Ripple, BitPay, Spend the Bits, Japan's SBI Group, and a bunch of central banks, recognize the utility of XRP, it would seem that the SEC is the outlier. And I agree there. They're the only ones that have a problem with this. And then here's some more gold from Digital Asset Investor. What you are watching has happened before. This is nothing new under the sun. Reshuffling the deck. This time it's the digital Jekyll Island. This time you can invest in the protocols that will change the monetary system. XRP, zero doubt, no coincidences. Look at the name. Let's check this out.
And a meeting on Jekyll Island, Georgia 100 years ago this month was an important moment in the evolution of U.S. central banking. That meeting is also the reason for the gathering here today. An important outcome of the 1910 meeting was a proposal for an institution with multiple branches, which became in part the model for the decentralized structure of the Federal Reserve System. A series of financial panics, culminating in the Panic of 1907, prompted Congress to undertake a series of steps toward reforming the nation's monetary system to promote macroeconomic stabilization. Congress passed the Aldrich-Vreeland Act in 1908, establishing an 18-member National Monetary Commission chaired by Rhode Island Senator Nelson Aldrich. The commission was charged with finding a way to reform the nation's monetary system, but progress was slow, and by 1910, the commission could not agree on a plan. Aldrich took matters into his own hands, meeting with a group of bankers on Jekyll to formulate a plan. The group included bankers Paul Warburg, Henry Davidson, and Frank Vanderlip. Also present were Aldrich's secretary, Arthur Shelton, and A. Piet Andrew, a Treasury official. Warburg's attendance was critical because of his knowledge of European banking practices. Aldrich was well aware that his meeting with bankers outside of the commission proceedings would generate controversy, which is why the group met at the remote Jekyll Island location. What emerged from the Jekyll meeting was the so-called Aldrich Plan, presented to the National Monetary Commission as a legislative blueprint. It became a catalyst for debate about the role of the government and banking in the central bank's governance. Representing a departure from the centralized governments of European central banks, the plan proposed that a National Reserve Association would function as the U.S. central bank.
It's the same tune, just a different age, man. I mean, it really is crazy. They're even talking about being more decentralized than the European central banks were at the time. These guys met in secret. A group of bankers came up with a plan, then presented it to Congress and kind of let Congress take over from there. I find it interesting. There's a lot of things going on, and I do believe there are no coincidences. We're going to wrap this up, but just remember, with all this narrative building to a head and coming to a point, Ripple pilots a private ledger for central banks launching CBDCs. This is back in March of this year. Ripple is piloting a private version of the public open source XRP ledger that provides central banks a secure, controlled, and flexible solution for the issuance and management of digital currencies. With over 80% of central banks actively exploring some form of sovereign-backed cryptocurrency, new CBDC are bound to emerge. Each new CBDC will have unique goals driven by the specific market challenges and opportunities of its country, unavoidably leading to different technologies and implementations, leaving the world with an array of CBD solutions. And that's going to do it for me, guys. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Got plenty more for you. Also, guys, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you'll get a push notification when I post new content. And go to my About section. I got some referral links and stuff there. And I also have a Facebook group that it's private. I accept pretty much everybody. I just left it private so it doesn't get spammed to all hell. But there is a link to that Facebook group if anybody's interested in there. We got like a couple hundred members. It's not really that talkative in there right now. It's mainly me. I would love to get some new people in there and get some chatter going on. See ya.